If you've been in the sport of diving more than a year, and if you want to get good in this sport, then one of the things you're going to have to learn how to manage, which is kind of like one of your training partners in a funny way, is the fear that is a normal part of this sport. And if you've been diving long enough, then maybe you've had the experience of mysteriously losing dives. All of a sudden, you can't throw a reverse, you can't do a back dive, even if you've been doing it for months or longer. And one of the reasons this happens is because of what goes on in our body and in our nervous system. But let me tell you a story about a diver I work with who sort of had this experience. Katie was a 16-year-old diver, one of the better divers on her team, and suddenly couldn't end up doing reverse dives. She'd get on the board, she'd stand there, she'd start getting anxious, and she'd shut down, and she couldn't throw the dive. And pretty soon, her frustration would spread into other dives. I mean, she'd get down on herself. Why aren't you throwing this? You've got this, you know how to do this. And then she would freeze more. It would affect other dives. And her coaches, well, in a way, they didn't help because they got frustrated that she wasn't going. And her parents were really upset about it because they were upset for Katie because they knew Katie was good. They didn't understand, well, why don't you just go? And that's what Katie would say to herself. Why aren't you going? And she wasn't going, and divers don't go because their nervous system hits a point where they don't feel safe. And they don't feel safe because of accumulated close calls, really hard smacks, times they've maybe hit the board or seen someone else smack hard or hit the board. And we have a tendency to memorize those experiences. And those kind of form the kernels, the seeds of these blocks. So when Katie connected with me, when we started working one-on-one, she is pretty skeptical about working on this, and she was pretty frustrated, and she was clearly ready to give up on the sport. And I helped her understand how your nervous system and how what I call activated, how nervous or scared or frustrated you get, how that affects your ability to dive, and that if you allow yourself to get too amped up that way, your body shuts down, and the dive and your ability to do the dive go offline. So we taught her how to recognize when that was happening inside, and then how to settle herself, how to calm herself down. We also taught her how to be a better coach to herself. And I don't mean like, yeah, you can do it, this is good, you got this, because you're probably already doing that if you're struggling with this. Now, I taught Katie how to calm herself down and be patient, and how to develop a system for gradually helping herself feel safer and then taking steps back to getting the dive back, which I should say she did, along with the other dives that she had lost on her list. Now, this is such a common problem, and I see this all the time, and I've worked with Olympic caliber divers and Division I college divers all the way down to club level divers, that over the years I've developed some training materials, some audios and some workbooks for divers to develop mental toughness and to know how to deal with these fears and these blocks. So whether you work with me one-on-one or you use some of that training material, I can promise you one thing. First of all, if you're blocked right now, if you've lost certain dives, if you've lost more than one dive on your list, you can get that back. Okay, this is a problem that's fixable, but you have to learn how to change your relationship with fear. Fear is a normal part of your sport. Divers losing skills, normal. If you don't work on the mental part of your diving, then you can't reach the level you'd like to. If you develop the mind of a champion and develop these skills, then that will take you as far as you'd like to go in this sport.